Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Dave, how's it going? It's nice to see you again.
It's nice to see you too, man. Yeah, um stuff's good. I was about to do a very typical English thing and start referring to how the weather's going here because New Zealand's finally getting into spring.
I saw
Um
you stand in a stream on the reels, I
on
think.
Instagram. Yeah. Yeah, so we moved to this house a year ago, and one of the things we moved here for is the fact it's further out from the city, from Wellington, from suburbia. It's still suburbia, but we're like right on the edge. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm on the edge of where the streetlights run out. If I go 10 minutes walking
Nice.
one direction, it's farms and that end of stuff. And otherwise, if I walk the other direction, I could walk under streetlight all the way into Wellington City, technically. So yeah, the river's a nice spot here, and yeah, I Instagrammed it. I did a very cheesy I'm standing in a river wishing everybody a good morning kind of reel. And
You're such a
it
mom.
man, it felt cheesy, but then actually it felt genuine, right? It was a really good moment where the sun was just beaming through everything, and I often just do that, just go and stand in the middle of the river and take it in. Um, because if I'm wearing my boots, that's easy and it's shallow. Um, and I was like, yeah, no, I want to share this. This is kind of cool. Um, so yeah, I had a moment, and you were all
You're
invited.
such a dad.
Yes, I've been one for a long time, Daniel.
Fantastic. And I assume you're a pretty good one.
I hope
By the
so.
way, welcome to Waiting for Review, a show about the majestic indie developer lifestyle and apparently parenthood and streams. Join your scintillating hosts, Dave and Daniel, and let's hear about a tiny slice of their thrilling lives. Join us
Oh,
while waiting for review.
yay!
We're in the show proper now.
We are.
I have to tell
Oof.
you, I'm exhausted today. I told you a bit about it on the pre-show already, but like, I've just had a week, you know?
Yeah,
It is um maybe we can just launch into this. Like,
go for it.
um, my problem is, I think, like, oh, my problem. The list of my problems is long, um, but a not insignificant part of my problem is I'm wearing too many hats. Right? I'm
Yep.
the um, I'm the co-manager of the whole company. I am the CTO. I'm the product owner, and I'm the DevOps person, and I'm
Yes.
the mostly the UI designer.
You're the SRE
And
as well, right?
yeah, and the project manager, because now I
Hmm.
have a few people who help me out, which I'm very very grateful for. But of course, these people need to be project managed. And the thing is, I've
Hmm.
I've done all these things before, to some extent or less, like less DevOps, probably, and more like development, but still. I've been a project manager, a team leader, a technical lead, stuff like that. But I've never been a PO. Um, and I'm finding it very hard to, like, on the fly create processes and communicate
Yep.
my ideas in a way that then my coworkers are just like able to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do that. Um, and in an ideal world, I would probably just like be able to just like sit down, think about this properly, like let it sit for a few days, and then write like a long ticket, and then like split that ticket up into individual subtasks or whatever, and
Yep.
then have like a drawing, a few schematics, a few UI sketches or whatever, and then like talk to all the shareholders and like bring everyone on board and be like, okay, like what do we need on the server, what do we need on the front end, like what do we need anywhere
Yep.
else. And I think that would be delightful, but the thing is, the thing is i have I feel like for all these tasks I have like 10 minutes.
Yep.
So um what I'm hoping for is like just like writing a few sentences in a ticket and then like Zoom calling the stakeholders and be like, okay, everyone, like this is what I want. Can you do it? And they're usually like, yeah, I guess. And then
What
That's how it
happens though,
goes.
right? So what in that hypothetical, what do you think happens if you do it like that? People run with it. Is it an issue then of you've then got to go, well, not like that, but like this 100 times until you actually get it where it needs
Yeah,
to be?
that's the one thing. Yeah, like I'm kind of
Yeah.
still in the phase where I'm hoping people will read my mind, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of disappointed when they don't read my mind, which is on me, of course.
It is. It
Um,
is. Yeah.
so um, yeah, I think I think the solution for this right now is because like it's an issue of prioritization, right?
Yep.
I have only 9-ish hours in a day or in a work day. Um,
Yes. And that's still too
and
much, really.
I know, but still.
Yeah.
And so like I need to be happy with what I get. And if it doesn't
Yep.
look the way the way I like how it looks, then that's just, well, too bad. That's right now for the next few months. That is the right decision. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I think um like I'm working with professionals, so I'm like, okay, it needs to do I need what I do need to do is like define some requirements that are very checkable. Like it needs to do this, 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 and this.
Yep.
Maybe some hints about like how things are implemented. Because
Mm-hmm.
that's actually a like like when I look at my architecture, I'm like, oh yeah, this makes so much sense. But it turns out if I let another person in there, they're like, what is this weird haunted place?
Yes.
Um, so I need to add a few more pointers towards architecture, and then I just need the professionals to do their job, I think. At the same time, like the prioritization goes even further, right? Because right now, I ah like there's this I don't know who said it. I'm afraid it's like one of those Uncle Bob sayings. Who, like Uncle
Yeah.
Bob? I'm not the
Say it anyway.
greatest fan. Anyway, like there's this thing that I heard the other day: make it work, make it right, and then make it fast.
Yep.
Um, and like I hadn't heard this before, but it works. Like that's kind of how I work. Like in
Mm-hmm.
a fractal sense, like for individual functions that are right. But it turns out I
Mm-hmm.
also work like that when I'm building a company or a product.
It's
Um,
probably,
and
and would say like it rings true to me. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, because you follow that one through, right? If you've got something that doesn't work, well, there's nothing for you to sell to anybody or bring any value to your users and customers. Um, and then make it right. I think was the one that followed. Um, yeah, that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? You've stood it up, but now you need to sort of buttress that or refactor or do whatever it needs to be um, stable. And then make it fast. That make it fast coming last seems true to me because what you're trying to say is don't over optimize up front. Really,
exactly.
that sort of boils down
Yeah,
to. Um, yeah, I think if I look at all of this though, if I was a contractor working for you here, Daniel, so I put myself in that position and I'm getting these inputs from you. Um, you have to be okay with them going through the same stages as well. You can't expect the second bit, make it right before it's working. You can't expect make it fast before they've made it right. I'm taking this to the nth degree, but you in your management of people, in your guidance as a leader of it, you've got to accept, like, okay, it's not going to be at that level the first time round. But
right.
as long as it's
But that's actually
working, that's fine.
not
Yeah.
even that's even not even what I was working towards. What I'm working
Okay.
towards is, I think, like the product telemetry deck or the company, I don't know, is
Mm-hmm.
now kind of switching over from the make it work phase into the make it
Yep.
right phase.
Mm-hmm.
So making it work, like we have a product that is reasonably successful, that people are
Yep.
paying like serious money for, and that gives people some value. Like there's still like a 100-kilometer long list of things that are missing and that I really would like to add. But
Yep.
it works, right? It is a thing that is successful. Next up, though, is like making this thing right, as in it needs to be self-sustainable.
Yep.
We need to reach profitability, and that is like almost in reach. Like it's like tentatively close, and um, but that it needs to be the next step, right? Like this thing needs to be able to support itself long term, and then I think so. I think what I want to say is like I want to be a bit more ruthless in deciding what I do with my personal time to
Yep.
find out like what are the things that are most helpful towards the goal of making it right before I work on making it fast. By which I mean like making it look pretty and quick and have all the
Yep.
features that I
Yeah.
would like to add.
So I think this can work, and I'm just looking. We've had a conversation before all of this. You kind of brain dumped a whole bunch of your context, but if I'm sort of sifting through everything we've just said, um, it's a case of setting that priority, being very clear about, well, okay, this is now, these are the key priorities. These are the things we're going to, quote unquote, make right, if you were, or if you will. These are my priorities for telemetry deck, the product, right now for a period of time. So your event horizon on that could be a year, it could be 6 months, it could be 3 months, but you've got to say, okay, you got to set some sort of cadence to it, right? So then you're actually working towards these things as goals, as milestones, and so there's something there that is guiding decision making for a period of time before you will then sort of review, and set some new ones, and you can keep going and keep going like that. Um, and then I think the handoff really of this is it's not just you who should be being ruthless in this way, right? Um, you should actually be encouraging everybody in your team to also be being that ruthless with how they do, because that's how this stuff sort of can cascade. If you're saying very clearly, these are the priorities, anything that doesn't sort of fit towards this can wait until later. There's a subset of that anybody working on those things for you can also then start using that as a rubric, as a rule set to for their decision making as well, which means they're then able to start prioritizing their time and the efforts they're bringing to you, um, autonomously to a degree, because you've set that guideline.
Look
Um,
at us being a business podcast now.
oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. But does that
Welcome
ring
to the
true?
Tiny Business Podcast.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
it very much does. It very much does. It feels like yeah, I what I want to do over the next few days is, well, get the new COVID vaccine, but also like think about what are, like, I know what my priorities are, but like what are the exact things that I want to do and or not do to reach those. And I think that's
yep.
a good way to think about that. And I feel like there's always these inflection points.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's a thing that I've been thinking a lot about. I think there's a talk in me somewhere that wants to come out about exactly that topic. But
Yeah,
there's always these inflection points where you're like, okay, this has been the ideal and good solution for our product, our company, but now suddenly it doesn't fit any longer.
yeah,
Um, and until now, most of these inflection points have been of a technical nature. Like, oh, our data doesn't really fit into Postgres anymore. Like,
yep,
because it's not the right type of data. Let's check our time series databases.
yes.
Oh, like it doesn't, like the stuff doesn't fit on one server anymore. Like, let's check our hosting providers.
Mm-hmm.
Now it is a organizational and prioritization and time issue. And so,
Yes.
yeah, I think I need to find my way there. And then, yeah, I'm actually taking next week off for a vacation, which
Mm-hmm.
is going to be fun, I hope.
That sounds like a good
And
idea
so I
to
have
me,
some
because
time
you're,
to breathe and think.
yeah, you've got enough on your plate, and I think having a vacation time's a good idea, regardless of the fact it's also going to feel like, oh my god, all these things are going to stack up while I'm away. It can be a very good point then to help you reprioritize, reset, and what's important will still be there when you get back, and what's
Yeah.
not might have dropped away as well. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, pretty
yeah,
much. Too
I
bad though. Like I am going to go on a dynamic island for my vacation.
really. You're going on a dynamic island. Wow. Is
Yeah.
this is this is a reference to a certain device that's winging
Yeah,
its
but the
way to
device
you?
is not arriving before I leave.
Oh no. Oh no.
we um we ordered, like Lisa and I ordered ourselves new iPhones because
Mhm.
I mean you gotta give yourself something, right? Like we pay ourselves like a salary that is about a quarter of what I could earn or whatever. But
Yep.
um yeah, like it feels like that's kind of our bonus that like doing for ourselves the first time. But it arrives about halfway through my week vacation, which is too
Right.
bad.
Are you going away on your vacation, Daniel?
Yeah, I'm flying to
Hey,
Mallorca and like riding my bike all over that island. That's why it's a dynamic island.
beautiful. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
And then when you get back, you've got a dynamic island on an iPhone 16 Pro Max waiting for you, right?
indeed.
Yeah.
In brownish desert color. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I ordered the case
I
as well.
haven't ordered one. I
Which
haven't ordered one. I came close, but I decided to hold fire.
yeah, it's better for the environment, for your wallet,
Yep.
and just for the whole world basically. Um, but should we talk a tiny bit about technology and programming and stuff like that?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have a particular topic? If you don't, I do.
Yes, yes.
Oh, go on.
That's actually
Go for it.
a blowover from last week that I wanted to tell you about last week, but I actually like we didn't have time
Mhm.
for it basically. And so last week, what I did was I finally installed Sentry everywhere. Like,
Talk me through it.
all right, so Sentry is a software solution or a software as a service that, similarly to telemetry deck, you have like a small software SDK package that you include in your program, and when something crashes, like the crash kind of arrives on their page, and you get a stack trace, you get lots of like I don't know, like context, and you also get like stats, like okay, this issue happened for 700 users. This issue first appeared in this Git commit and last appeared in that Git commit. So we assume this Git commit fixed it. That kind of stuff. It's also pretty privacy focused. That is also nice. And
Yep.
I have, like, in previous lives, I worked religiously with Sentry, like all the
Right.
time. And somehow I never even thought about including it in telemetry deck. And the reason for it is unclear to me, but I assume that it's because I was kind of in the back of my head thinking, should I do this myself at some point? Will
Yeah.
someone else like do this something like but in the end, like I don't know, like the founder of Sentry is actually someone I know. Hi Armin, if you listen to this. And I'm like, I should really do this, and I kind of regret not doing it earlier. Like
Oh,
one of my let me begin again. One of my philosophies as a technical leader, especially, and is like you have this pyramid of quality, right? And you have like in there is unit tests and integration tests and user tests and stuff like that, but they're further up. But like further towards the bottom is actually just tracing errors. Like if an error occurs, you should know about it.
yep.
And somehow I forgot this for like I had this like I have like error tracking on the server, for example. Like if something
Yep.
goes wrong on the server, it will actually like that happens seldomly enough that the server will just email me. Um, but at the same
Yep.
time, especially on the front end, but also like in various like smaller packages, um, yeah, like there is errors. And it is very helpful to see like where things are going wrong the most, which is like, to be fair, like different from what I was assuming, which is actually very helpful to see.
That's
Um,
cool.
for example, the most like the the most occurrent error is basically when you are when you log out of telemetry deck, then the UI will still try to retrieve stuff from the data from the API, but will, of course, the API will refuse, and that kind of just throws an exception that kind of just lands in the console. And like, I
Yep,
can fix that with 2 lines. And
that's
so
brilliant.
I still like don't want to fall into a hole of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna try to fix everything here because priorities, right?
Yep,
But here's my reminder to you, but also our listeners: like, don't forget to track your errors. Like, if you are on like iPhone only, like Xcode will do most of the work for you. But even then, like, just consider your options.
yep.
But yeah, Sentry is neat for that as well. But like, yeah,
I'm I'm
like don't forget
I'm
to
giving it a look
check your
over
errors.
now. I'm giving it a look over now because my immediate gut instinct was like, that server stuff. I don't need to think about that, right? And yeah, and then I flicked straight into their product. I'm having a look at the iOS section, for example, and of course
That's
it's
my
got crash
my
reporting.
major. That's my one gripe with Sentry actually. Their
Hmm.
whole Apple specific thing, their SDK is like completely written in Objective C still. Like they're slowly traversing towards Swift and whatever, but because it
Yep.
is very much geared towards like running on an iPhone or an iPad or a Mac or tvOS or whatever,
Yeah.
like you can't just run it in Vapor. There's no
Right.
official Swift only SDK that you can include in Vapor, which is
Yeah.
sad.
So you've had to use something else and then route the errors through it.
No, the server is
Is
still
that right?
continuing to send emails on exception,
Got it.
basically.
Got it. But yeah, no, I'm looking and I'm going, right, okay, I could actually use this, and their pricing. Bear in mind, we're not sponsored by Sentry, so please don't anybody get the
Not
wrong idea
yet.
from me looking at this. Well, yeah, exactly. I wouldn't be looking at it. I wouldn't be adverse because it looks really useful. They've got a solo dev plan that's free, one user with error monitoring, tracing, alerts, and notifications on email. Um,
Turn off
that
those
looks like
emails. They
something.
are depressing. It's just like, oh, you're deep in a problem. Like, you have way too much work anyway. And then an email arrives. It's like, you broke something. It's like,
Yeah, no,
no.
no, thanks. But I'm looking down it and I'm like, yeah, that's probably something I should look at, to be honest with you. Um, so yeah, maybe this is going to go on my to-do list that I actually plug this in, because at the moment I like crash and error reporting for me is just relying on what comes through in App Store Connect, because I kind of
Which is
needed to
not
minimize the problem.
too bad. Like,
It's not.
it could be better, but it is
Yeah,
not too bad. And also, like, because you don't need to care about symbolication, right? That because
mhm,
you're all in Xcode. So that is actually a
yeah,
huge advantage. You don't need to upload a symbolication file to Sentry if you're just using Xcode or stuff like that.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, honestly, I think this is something I may give a bit of a bit of time to, because it's a blind spot, and I can ignore that in a lot of ways continually, and just sort of go, well, okay, people will tell me, um, but we all know that that runs out of road after a while, and certainly if I want to make what I'm doing indie wise more robust and a better actual business, this is the sort of thing I should be thinking more about in time. So that's something else, Daniel. I think we talk a lot about the stuff I work on this show and stuff you work on and the rest of it, but I have to sort of reflect that my apps at the moment only represent a bit of a hobby business in terms of income, in terms of what they're doing. I want them to be more, um, but if I'm honest, although I'm making reasonable money from the App Store these days, it clocks out to, on average, somewhere around $400 or $500 US a month that I'm earning, which is not to be sniffed at. It's still at that level of scale where you talked about milestones. I'm almost at milestone one still. in a lot of ways with what I do. Um, but yeah, this is the sort of thing that clearly will be more useful um, for me to sort of bring in and help guide towards those bigger milestones as well. So yeah, Sentry looks cool. um, but yeah, I kind of wanted to talk a bit about my views with where I'm going in that sense, actually,
Please,
if that's all
like
right.
with GoVJ.
Yeah. So, and this isn't in our show notes, so I feel like I'm going off script, but that's allowed. This is a conversation, and if we get too robotic about show notes, that's not going to be good for anybody listening. But anyway, where am I at? So I've took a bit of a step back, maybe about a week ago, and I had everything in my head in terms of like I want to do this, I want to do that. I've got the VJ app. I'm currently working on updating that effects screen bit by bit. I've actually had a few issues with iOS 18 that's kind of bogged me down in the last few days. Um, but everything was in my head, and I've got Go VJ Pro, which is the vision of a much more involved iPad and eventually Mac version of the app. Um, Meanwhile, I've also got people on Instagram every time I post about the app pinging me and saying, "Hey, does it work on Android?" Of course, it doesn't. So everything's been all in my head, and I've been looking and going, well, where am I actually taking this? What am I doing? And if I look to the side of me, I've got a whiteboard, and I sketched everything out. And I've kind of boxed things off. If I give you a bit of a read down here, for the rest of this year, I'm planning to ship this update that improves the effects loading. So that's priority number one, get that out of the way. Along with that, though, what I'm going to do is take stock of my ASO on the app. So I'm going to try and improve my keywording and get it in front of more people because, as I said before, I'm earning some money, but I also have looked at my stats in App Store Connect, and I feel like I could probably be getting more people through the door just with what I've got. It's not necessarily about adding new features, and the Pro version will be good, but it's not necessarily going to be the only thing that I can do here to really open this up as a better going concern. So on my list of to-dos is ASO. It's been a long while since I've actually reviewed my keywording and that side of stuff. Along with that, though, I've got other apps in the store. I've got my video to audio converter. I've got the Looper app that I made that is a real simple doodad for looping videos. I've got the NDI switcher. All of those are kind of like solved problems. I don't need to iterate any new features on them. So they've got a thing where I'm going to go and check the ASO for those and actually try and improve, again, my funnel to the things I've already got. So this is if we come back to the beginning of the show where you're saying make it work, then make it good, make it fast. I've made it work. I've got apps in the store. I'm selling stuff. I'm now looking at, well, okay, can I make it good? Can I make it do better than what it has been doing in that initial sense financially?
Do better, Dave. Do better.
Yeah, just do better. Just do that. So we'll see where that goes, and there'll probably be future shows where I can sort of talk about how the ASO approach that I'm taking has or hasn't worked. So that's on the list. Beyond that is cranking on the pro version of the app and actually getting something to test flight at least by the end of the year, because again, people keep asking me about that. I set this landing page. There's actually a bit of pent up expectation that something's going to drop. If I can just get a test flight version out in the next couple of months, that at least shows people I've not completely stalled on it and keeps that momentum that I started. Android, it's on the list for next year at some point. I'm not prioritizing that yet.
I'm betting it will be finished before Elon Musk lands on Mars. So you got some time.
Yeah. And I'm going to do this in an environment that's not trying to kill me all the time. Which,
Radiation, no joke, and also bad for this. Like it might make good effects though. Like all this
yeah,
radiation hitting your camera sensor. I think it could be a
yeah,
pretty cool
yeah,
effect.
yeah. It could do indeed. Um, but
I
does
saw,
any of
by the
this
way,
make sense,
your.
Daniel?
Oh yeah, it makes definite sense. I think it's a good prioritization. And
Mhm.
at the same time, I was like, "Oh, this sounds so nice! Like just like spending like months and months on one feature."
It's not.
Ah,
Like you don't get the wrong idea here, Daniel. Right?
but
My
that's the thing. Like
time
you
is
only
fractional AF at the moment on
it
this stuff.
is,
Right?
yes. That's the one thing, and the other thing is like I have a full week to work on telemetry data, like a full work week every week. You don't.
Yeah. No, I don't. And my day is full with my quote unquote day job, which I try and give my full attention to, my full energy to, because I actually really enjoy what I do in my day job as well. It's sort of um an interesting place to be because traditionally I've kind of the day job is the grind I want to get away from. And the indie dev is then sort of fulfilling needs in that way that the day job isn't. At the moment, it kind of feels like a good blend because I'm doing people leadership and engineering management effectively in my day job, which borders into some similar concerns to what you have in terms of how you're leading with telemetry deck. Um, but of course, I'm playing that on easy mode because we're not a startup. The company I'm working for in my day job is a bank, so um, there's it's a different set of concerns. But I coming back to the indie dev, the thing I guess I just wanted to highlight is that it's the shiny thing, right? Um, you can do these things if you have enough time, and I don't. And so, last month I picked up an Android device to play with. I've got all these visions of like how I'm going to bring the app over to Android as well and potentially even make a single cross platform code base in time. But if I do that now, I won't have shipped anything to users that updates and improves their experience. These are people already paying me. I won't have delivered on the promise for setting up this pro version of the app. I'll have completely rediverted all of my energy um, to something brand new, and it's just not the right play. And so, on the one hand, all I want to do is forget everything we just spoke about and start setting up my cross-platform stack and just figuring out how I can make the video engine work in a way that I can bring to iOS and Android at the same time. It's a lot of rework. It's a lot of effort. Um, and it's the thing I really, really want to do, but I've had to look at it objectively and go, it's not the right time. Like next year there'll be a point where it will feel like the right time, and these other things will have, ASO I'm hoping actually increases that 500 a month up to something a little bit more substantial. Even if it just gets 30-40% more than what that is, I'll be happy. That'll be you know
That's a good goal to
um
have, though.
yeah, and we'll see if it's achievable or not. And yeah, it's not the same situation as yours at all, but I'm definitely feeling that overload feeling with some of this. Like, yeah, I don't have enough time to do all the things that are in my head that I want to do, you know? Um,
Yeah.
and that's hard.
uh, I have this roadmap, right? And of course, every now and then you reprioritize.
Yep.
And there's a few of those post-it notes that just like they're just like kind of stuck to the bottom of that roadmap, and I'm like, come on, can I reach this at some point?
Yes.
So yeah, I get that. I get that very much. That's like, I mean, that's just how it is. I guess.
Yeah.
I still think it's good to prioritize. Um, and yeah, I was going to
Yeah.
compliment you on just posting every now and then a video of Go VJ in action, especially the new
Hmm.
UI. Like I really like seeing those. The music you choose is awesome. It
Oh,
looks really
thank you.
cool, and just
Yep.
like I can share them and stuff like that. Like I think it's really cool, and you should continue doing that.
I plan to. This is the other thing, right? I make an app that plays with video. I actually enjoy the use of my app. That's one of the reasons I still work on it. And I've realized in the last few months, like the more I show of that aspect of stuff, the more it kind of it resonates with potential users and existing users, and deepening that connection with the community of people who work in this space has been really, really fulfilling. Actually, I mean, we
Hmm.
spoke on the last show about the bioluminescence project that had all the kids using iPads using my app. Um, and things like that come off the back of me doing social media in that way. It's been a very, very positive reinforcement sort of exercise. But I added, if I thought about the bioluminescence project and how they've got it, is that they've got this fleet of iPads with kids were playing the videos they've made through my app. They route it through a Mac that's running OBS, and they do that over the Wi-Fi using the network device interface stuff, the NDI network video out, right?
See, it's always coming back to NDI with you. It's always
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that is your whole passion in
Uh,
life.
the, the the linkage of these things, it opens things up, right? But it was a whole thing. Is if they wanted to use my app to do that a year ago, they wouldn't have been able to. They would have had to have used capture cards, or had with one kid coming and plugging the iPad into the Mac through a capture interface, and then when the other one wants to play, they would have to swap it over, or have multiple interfaces, whatever. So again, it's interesting. I added that feature just because I wanted it to exist, and I knew this would let it connect with other software. But yeah, then seeing how other people are actually using that and applying that to these sort of scenarios, the fact that there's a whole bunch of kids now with this memory of using my app to play with their own artwork and all of that, like that for me is like, hell yeah, that's part of what this is for. Um, I don't even know what I'm really trying to say on this thread, if you like, other than yeah, the social media has actually been positive. And maybe a year ago, I would have told you I hated all social media. So it's been quite
Yeah,
interesting to
but I
see.
love that. And also like just like that warm feeling of seeing like someone is actually using a thing you made and it gives
Yeah,
them value or joy or both. That's just so
yeah,
nice.
absolutely. And I think that, if anything, should be what a lot of indie development is about, and a lot of even a lot of startup life as well, in a
Yeah.
sense of, if you're going to bring something new into a world that's already got a shed load of software, right? There's an app for everything, there's a service for everything. So many things are quote unquote and shitified these days, right? But I think if you can focus back in on building things that really help people do things, that help people achieve things, in a way that perhaps wasn't so easy otherwise, and you can connect with those people, then there's actually an opportunity to do something really positive and cool. Um, and I
Yes.
think that's
I very
that's
much agree.
necessary.
What is also necessary is I really want to know what you mean by gatekeeping in tech, which is the next bullet point
Ooh.
in our
So we
notes.
go from a
Tell me
warm
about
and
that.
fuzzy moment into something a bit stronger.
Yeah, it doesn't sound too positive.
I'm not sure I want to
Have you
talk
been
about
gate
this one
kept?
now. No, 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 no.
Did you
So,
see someone being gate kept? Well, if you don't want to
something
talk about it, like I can tell you like the top 10 things I like about the new iOS.
you could do. You could do. Let's touch on it very, very quickly. So, I made a
Yes.
post about gatekeeping in tech and put it on my Mastodon. I'll link it up. The long and the short of it is,
Oh, I
somebody
haven't seen
shared
that
with
one.
me. Somebody shared with me a fairly personal story, so I kind of hesitate to sort of sing too loud about the specifics. But nuts and bolts wise, it was a situation where a tutor had told this person, "Oh, you're no good at Java. You've got no business being a dev." Um, and that clearly had an impact on that person, and they're now coming into development and mobile development, and they're doing brilliantly with it. And I realized in that moment that, as somebody established and senior in this situation, right, that um, there's an opportunity for me to kind of, I guess, assert some positivity to that, right? That person who, the tutor in that scenario, I reflected this straight back and said, well, yeah, that tutor had no business being a tutor, right? And telling somebody
Yeah, I mean,
something
what kind
like
of
that.
tutor
Yeah.
are you if you're like telling the students you're tutoring, like, hey, this is you're not good. Like, of course you aren't if you are
No.
still getting like taught.
Yeah. Yeah. And I sort of asserted the fact that tutor was an a-hole, and had no business doing that. And I guess what I want to just say is, like, we're part of a community. We're part of a an industry as well. Me and you, we are working in tech. People in indie development are. People in iOS development, in software as a service development are. And sometimes it does come down to this. You get these attitudes with people of, like, oh, you're not good enough, or because I know X, Y, and Z thing and you don't, I'm somehow better than you. Um, and it is incredibly corrosive, incredibly toxic. And I just, I guess I kind of think, yeah, anything we can do to offset that for people and to help welcome, newcomers into the space, I
Oh yeah.
think is that is the way, if you like. Um, I know I'm preaching to the converted here, but yeah, it was.
Yes, but still, you're absolutely right. Like everything, like I consider myself a pretty good like tech person. Like I'm a like
Mhm.
reasonably good programmer. I can do like I can do some server stuff. I can maintain my whole like computerized life pretty well, right?
Yep.
And everything
Yeah.
I know because I either had the opportunity to fail 15 times while learning,
Hmm.
because that's kind of how I learned. Like I take stuff apart, like I just like prod things and they fail in interesting ways. Like that's how you learn. Like so you need to fail
Yes.
15 times, 20 times, 100 times, right? So either that, or because someone taught me. Someone was like, hey, look at this. Like, hey, I noticed that you are not using this very interesting tool. Would you like me to show you? And then I'm like,
Yes.
I don't know. Then I'm like, no, I don't have the bandwidth for that. But like, or I'm like, sure, like, what is this? And then someone shows me an interesting new shortcut, an interesting new
Yes.
tool, an interesting new programming language or paradigm or whatever, or recommends a really good book or whatever. So like, telling someone like, oh, you're not good enough for this, like, as long as you have a certain like an interest. I wanted to say passion, but passion is probably too strong. As long as you're like reasonably interested in, oh yeah, this tech thing, like
Hmm.
play around with it, like make all the mistakes, like make something shitty, and then make it good later. Like just make
Yep.
it work, Like that's how you
Yep.
get better.
That
And
is.
telling people that because of I don't know, like I don't know about the person that you talk about, but like telling people like just because of where they come from or their gender or their sexuality or whatever,
Hmm.
to not that they're not able to do a certain thing, or
Yep.
like that is like so incredibly like oh
Yep.
grinds my
There's no need.
gears.
There's just no need. And the thing I see routinely is, it doesn't matter your level of experience, right? You can be senior, you can be very well versed in what you're doing. There's still stuff to learn, and actually, again, even for somebody who's on the top of their game, having an environment where it is safe to try new things, safe to fail, with what you are working on as well, um, is still necessary. Because again, like, it doesn't change just because you know X, Y, and Z. Doesn't mean you don't know ABC. It doesn't mean you know ABC as well.
Right.
And actually, it's the same process. You've got to, quote unquote, fuck around and find out sometimes before you know how these things work. And yeah, anyway, it's just something I wanted to touch on because I'm very passionate about making sure environments I work in are inclusive, teams I have are supportive of each other and collaborative, and actually extends out into what I want to see in the indie world and that side of things as well. So I guess this is a pitch to say, if you're listening to this and you feel like you need a bit more collaboration and a bit more support with what you're working on, come join our Discord. Come join our Discord, say hello, all right? Because it's the same thing. People turning up in that Discord, sharing what they work on, bouncing ideas off other people. That's the world I want to see. So the more the merrier.
Exactly. You are good enough. You're awesome. And like, if you want to try stuff, try stuff. If anyone tells you, oh, it's not good enough, then that person is a hater.
Yep. Yep. We
Like,
don't
if
need
that
that.
person is not paying you, like, if that person is not paying you and they are telling you, oh, it's not good enough, then that person is a hater.
Yep.
And
Yep.
if that person is
We
paying
don't
you,
need
they should
that.
probably pay you more.
Well, on all the positive vibes, and I managed to switch this one round from what could have been quite
Yeah.
a negative bit of a conversation into this really is what I believe in. We need more collaboration, more support, more positivity in what we're doing. But on all of that note, Daniel, I've got to get on with the rest of my day. I've got to wrap the show. So do you want to close us out so I feel at peace?
I do, yeah. But like my very favorite iOS 18 feature, this one is the thing
Mm-hmm.
where if you press your volume button, it kind of like squeezes in the screen a little bit. And that is so cute. That is so whimsy. Mm,
Yep.
I love it.
More whimsy
I
is
love it.
necessary.
That is
We should talk about those features
fantastically
in more
whimsy.
depth next
Right.
week, though, Daniel, because I'm
We
finding
should.
out more and more as I go along.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm completely in agreement. By then I'll have read the iOS review by Federico Vitici. So thanks for listening. Please rate us on iTunes and YouTube. Like, give us the thumbs up, and like, if you're really masochistic, also press that bell. Write into the chat what is your favorite iOS feature, but also write us emails at contact@waitingforreview.com and join our Discord. The link is in the show notes. Dave, where can people find you? Except in
You
the
can,
Discord.
yeah. So I'm just going to shout out the Instagram, I think, and people can take a look at me standing in a river. So that is on Instagram, lightbeamapps.com, DOT.com, just spelt all as one word. And again, that will be linked in the show notes. So on your podcast player, you can just scroll down, find it, hit it. And if you've got Instagram, follow me, add me, say hello. I'm actually finding it quite a fun social media platform these days. So that's where you can find me. But how about you, Daniel?
How about me? I am, as you might have heard, as you might have heard today, I'm a bit overwhelmed. So just go to daniel@social.telemetrydeck.com and send me a picture of something that you think is nice, like your cat or your pet or a sunset or whatever.
Oof. Yeah, I'm down with that. Awesome.
Fantastic. Dave, see you next week. No, actually, see you in 2 weeks.
Yes.
I'm not going to bring
Yes.
a microphone. I'm sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. Enjoy your holiday, Daniel, and we'll see how the shows go out. But I think we'll probably just take a break in between this one and the next. So there might be a delay, people, before the next show. But yeah, we'll be back live and kicking afterwards. So have a good one, Daniel.
You
Take
too.
care. Bye bye.
Bye.